Let's get feisty, people. We've been paired on chess.com with Mandelbrot 987. Let's go with e4. See what kind of response Mandelbrot gives us as black. Okay. e5. So let's play our Vienna game again, and then maybe after this I'll start to vary against e5 a little more. So knight to c6. I like knight c4. Sorry, bishop c4 here. g3 is another system that's a little quieter but solid. But let's stay feisty here. Vienna game can be a very feisty opening if handled well. So we have to play d3 here. Black is already threatening to take on e4 and then fork with d5. So if we'd played, for instance, knight f3, then black could take immediately on e4. Bishop e7. Okay, not a very ambitious move. We have every reason to play f4 here in the style of the King's Gambit. This is how I like my Viennas, with f4. The idea is we're going to build up a bigger center than white. The knight can sometimes come to e2, but I like him on f3. If he goes for bishop g4, we can basically either force him to go back and look silly with h3 or to just give up the bishop pair. Okay. h6, a6. I could simply castle here. I could play f5. Might be a bit early to play f5. Actually, it looks like f5 would make it difficult for him to castle. Either way. Could go for immediate knight to d5. If I take on e5, that's an option. Since his bishop is stuck behind that pawn chain, I think I'll just castle. f5 would have a lot more sting once black has castled. And if he goes, say, b5, I'll just go bishop b3. Okay. F takes e4 is another, e5 is another idea. That really allows him to free this bishop, though. Let's keep him entombed. Let's grab up some space, and this f5 pawn is often a very good wedge for a kingside attack. Look at our big pawn chain pointing over towards the enemy king. It's a very aggressive placement. Bishop g5 might be next. h3, g4 are other ideas. Okay. Am I concerned? I can leave the bishop there. It's protected. Or I could just bring the bishop back to b3. The rook is active on the a file if knight takes and then pawn takes. But since he's already played h6, it's a little bit less appealing. I'm going to keep my big central structure together. So let's bring our bishop back. Okay. Goes for it immediately. He could have held that bishop hostage for a while. He really wants to stop my knight from going to d5. Maybe play d5 himself. So now's a good time for... Actually, he won't be able to play d5 until he gets queen c7 in. So here's where I need to pick a plan. Bishop to g5 or h3 with g4 to follow. I'll go with h3 at first here, at least. g4 would also serve to protect our big pawn on f4. Okay, now he is threatening to play d5. I think it's time to go all in with g4 here. Bishop g5, he gets d5 in. If I take, he takes with the bishop. He doesn't have enough. Okay, bishop g5, and then he won't have enough firepower to hold up d5. Actually, ooh, that gets pretty tactical. Okay, bishop g5, d5. Bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6. Nah, I should play g4. It's a race to chase off the opponent's knight, I think. He does have checks on this diagonal. The a7 g1 diagonal. Alright, now he's giving me a hook to open up the kingside. g5 looks just as appealing now, if not more so. Yeah. Maybe we make a preparatory slide of our king to h1 first. Gets rid of any checks. King h1, or we go for g5, h takes g5, bishop takes g5, and then again d5 being the critical continuation here. Although knight takes e5 also looks interesting. No, that just loses. So g5, hg, bishop takes g5, d5. Do I have bishop takes f6 there? With king h1, I might get rook g1 in before playing g5. There's not that much pressure on my center here. I mean, my knight holds things down. I think I have time for rook g1. Or do we want to open up that file first? g5. He's got... Rook g1 has to be good, in principle. I need to get to 15 moves by 10 minutes. So I got to make one more move. Hopefully pretty quickly. And likely to be g5 here. If he pushes d4, then I'm very happy about locking up the center. If he takes on e4, I don't want to take with the knight because I want g5 to come with an attack on that knight. I could also sack on h6 here and then follow up with g5. Bishop takes h6. Look at those ideas. So things seem to be getting kind of critical. I don't want to miss another winning continuation. So maybe it's not worth rushing through here. Mandelbrot. I believe that's a mathematics reference. I remember something about a Mandelbrot set in set theory. Some of my friends would be able to tell me what that is, but I'm at a loss. If I go for g5 immediately, then assuming black makes a useless move here, but g5 immediately, h takes g5, bishop takes g5. I'm actually threatening bishop h6, which would win the exchange, or at least look good. I have to watch out for his light square bishop on that diagonal against my h pawn. I might think about queen f1 with queen g2. But maybe better would be to move my knight off of f3. So that the queen guards h5. I think b5 is a good plan for white here, but that weakens a6 quite a bit. But the idea with b5 would be to play b4 and then dislodge my knight, which is anchoring my e-pawn on e4. But I think I'm quicker than that. I can just go, yeah. I can go g5. Actually, this also, rook g1 allows me to play h4 if I want to take it a little slower. h4 and then threatening g5. I might play queen e2 rather than f1 actually. Queen e2 to hold up e4 a little more. And then if he plays b5, b4, I can maybe jump my knight to a4. Knight's not doing much there, but it's safe. And it's got some future squares on b6 or c5. Speaking of c5, he could go bishop c5 right now. But I think I'm happy to play rook g2. Maybe rook g3. Okay. Opening the d file. If he plays a rook to d8, then queen will come to e2, which will be just fine. My king does look a little bit airy here, but this is a very typical kind of Vienna idea. It's one of those openings where you can consider pushing your kingside pawns, even though you're castled in kingside. That's largely because the long diagonal that my king sits on is difficult to open without sacrificing a piece for white. For black, sorry. I'm expecting rook d8 here. Okay, b4. Is there a future for that knight? Well, not until I play... Okay, he is threatening to basically kick that knight away from the defense. g5 is an idea here. g5. b4 doesn't look very good. No, he can't do that. He has to respond to g5, and then bishop takes. this looks good. G5 looks good. Does allow him to plant a bishop on f6, which looks like a pretty stalwart defender. But if I manage to get my queen and my rook on the g file, I could also recapture with the knight on g5. I hadn't considered that. That opens up the queen. It doesn't give me the option of taking. But then maybe queen e1 to e4 is an idea, just putting pressure on h7. But again, his knight is pretty firm there. I've also got rook recaptures. Let's play g5. This has been a long time coming, so this is the reason we played rook f2. Sorry, rook g1. We can take three ways here, or we can not take. The knight here would also guard h3. I don't think that's a very important consideration, though. We actually don't need a recapture immediately. I don't know, I like rook takes here. I don't know why. I don't know why. But I need to make a move. I can slide my queen to g1 in that case, and I'm threatening things here. If the knight ever moves to try to unleash an attack, I can just play to h4. Although, I'm not sure about that. This seems better on principle, I guess. Bishop takes, because my bishop hasn't moved yet. My rook will be powerful enough on the g file. If he goes b4, I might just have bishop h6. Looks awfully messy and fun. Okay. Taking the knight puts a bishop of his on f6, which is a nice piece of defense, actually. Bishop h6 gives up a piece. And is very feisty looking. Let's do this. Let's do bishop h6. Rook d8 is a sensible answer here. But then I've got rook g7 check. better might be bishop takes g7. That looks fun. Rook d8, bishop takes g7. Rook takes d8. It doesn't quite work. Does it? It can't work. Rook d8, bishop g7, rook takes d8, maybe rook a takes, I'm sorry, rook d1, and then rook 8 recaptures on d1. He's got to play to, oh yeah, okay, he's got to play to h7 if he wants to step out of a discovery. And my knight is still hanging at the end of these lines is a problem. I got that knight on c3, can't forget about. But let's look at this. Rook d8, bishop takes g7, rook takes d1, rook a takes d1, king h7. I've got knight g5 check, and if king takes g7, then knight e6 wins the queen. And I've still got a knight hanging on c3, and my knight on c7 might not be long for this world either. In fact, probably not. Okay, he's getting defensive. I like to see that. Should we save this knight? Can we do something better than save this knight? Rook takes, knight takes, queen g1. He's got bishop f6. Just play knight to g5 here. Oh, that can't be good. Let's just save our knight. I don't see a lot of useful things it can do on the king side, so we're just going to save it with knight here. Now black is pretty tied up. Okay, we scared him into I think, a passive position here. Maybe the numbers 9, 8, and 7 are part of a Mandelbrot set. Okay. He's threatening to take... What do we look like materially here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 on 6. He's threatening to take my bishop. Yeah, I think keeping the queens on board. I've made that mistake before. Let's bring this bishop back. Keep these queens on board. It was a clever move by black. Okay. Now I think queen e1 makes some sense. Or maybe rook g5 now to prevent knight h5, which looks like a pain. I like my knight on f3, how it guards d2 here. And then I can swing a queen. Yeah, rook g5. That runs into knight takes e4. That's the threat. So yeah, queen Queen e2 or e1? Connecting the rooks with e2. Yeah, I like queen e2 better. Queen can come to g2 quickly. Okay. I'm planning maybe a rook a to d1. Which would threaten bishop h6, bishop back to h6, so it would threaten a lot of things. I like how my apparently useless knight over on a4 keeps him out of c5. And it's very stable. The knight isn't really assailable on a4. And it seems if I took that knight to d2, it would only sort of get in the way of the g-file or the queen's maneuvers. He's still got a silly-looking white square bishop, but probably c5 and then bishop b7. Trouble is I'm getting really active in the meantime. I suppose I could have gone for knight b6 immediately and gotten rid of one of those bishops. But either c5 or bishop b7 right now would remove that threat. I'd probably go for c5 if I were black. Mandelbrot has connection issues. Let's hope this game finishes. Okay. This adds extra protection to my bishop as well as opposing that rook, opposing that queen, so that move is very natural to make. Now, I think bishop h6 is just crushing. Yeah, let's do it. We're low on time. Back to f8, of course. Okay, fine. You'll get your bishop. Go get your bishop to f6. Then the knight really gums up the works. Yeah. Actually, I have bishop f6 here, which looks forced, actually. I've got bishop g5. And if, bishop g5, and I'm looking at rook d7 ideas if he goes queen e7 to protect that bishop. I've also got bishop takes. No, I don't yet. Okay. Let's go this way with it. G6 might be an idea here, but that just loosens up that kingside so much. Yeah, G6, bishop takes F6, and knight takes F6. F takes G6. Looks pretty bad. It's one of those games I know the computer will tell me I have some kind of crushing, obliterating advantage. It's just a move that blows black away, but I've probably missed a few of those already. I do have knight c5 now. Queen e7, let's look at this. Queen e7, probably, then rook d7, and then bishop takes f6. He has to take the rook on d7, and bishop takes f6. Can't be met by knight takes f6, and the g-pawn is pinned. Okay, he's going for the capture. Maybe he's going to defend on the second, on the rank with f6 here. Okay. Again, I might be missing some huge blow for the quick win, but I've got to play practical here as well. Let's just guard e4 once more. So if c5 comes, I've got to Is there a way to get my knight to h5? That's a circuitous path. That means getting it to g3, which means getting it here. Well, he's got that defended too much. h5 is not that great. Okay, let's reinforce e2. Maybe I'll play my king to h2 here just to get off any tricks on that diagonal. This also watches over c4. Maybe ideas of knight c4 into d6 at some point, but these knights could team up to hit b6. He's putting extra defense on that. Yeah, let's get that king to h2. I'm not sure about this position. Maybe h4, harry the h-pawn was a better idea. If he gives me time, I can go knight e3 into d5, perhaps. I'm not sure that's any good. That's a good move. This is a good move. Let's just take that and at least make him plug up the D file. My king will be in check. He should almost certainly take with e-pawn to open this up. And now... Oof. I'm not sure about this, folks. My knight on a4 is looking silly now. Actually, no, I've got knight a4 to d5 ideas that are possible. Especially with like a queen f3 idea. He still does that weak a file too. He definitely big clock advantage. Planning to get king f3 and queen f4 in, and I might have a favorable endgame thanks to king position. And those knights are exerting actually pretty good pressure on the queen side for him. Okay. I think this necessitates this rook. Okay. Well, the knight to b6 to d5 plan looks actually effective here. Might need to play rook e2 first to get rid of any pins on that pawn. Alright, that does mean he's hitting that too many times. I need to take there. Let's try to trade queens. He does have some ugly pawn weaknesses. I have two. I have one. He has two. Okay. Is there a threat in that move? I don't think so. I think... Okay. I think this was a mistake. My queen watches the c1 square, so I think I'm winning this pawn here. Except for that. I missed that somehow. Okay, let's... That was probably a mistake, but this is an imbalanced game at least. Got tough at the end. This time management thing. Yeah, he can just take on c2 and it's over. It is over. Because he doesn't need to promote after I take his queen, he just recaptures, and there's no way I can do anything about that queen. Well played, Mandelbrot. I should not have gone for this. I still had king. King g4, I suppose. No, then you're picking up the other pawn. King g5. Still possible that we win on time, I suppose. But maybe Mandelbrot's just choosing to make me suffer a bit. Maybe he doesn't see, d takes c2. Oh, okay. Now, is there an immediate threat? Do I give up that knight and hope for the best? Let's play here. Knight comes to c4 is the plan. He has queen takes b2, and after rook takes c2, he's got this check, and then I'm losing more pawns. But actually, I have a somewhat stable position after the knight lands on c4. My knight's actually doing things, and the knight can be quite dangerous when we're low on time. So all hope is not lost. I'm glad he didn't see d takes c2 there. He doesn't appear to have any good checks. Okay. I don't think he can win anything. All right, our ship is kind of holding together here. Let's get that knight on a square that's protected. Let's make him do the work. Yeah, that's a nice little cluster that just holds itself together over there. If he tries to skewer me, my knight's got that rook guarded. I think that'll scare him if I go to e6. trying our best here. Okay, we're going to drop our knight for one of these queens. But we're going to try to run our own pawns here. Got b4. Sorry, c4. Probably don't want to step into any pins. Ah, that loses that pawn. Okay, I think I can win that pawn. He doesn't have any checks. But it's rook and queen. I was hoping to try to get into a rook versus queen ending with no pawns, and that's really difficult for black to win. I don't know how to do it, for instance. I mean, maybe that's possible still. Just gonna let my king improve his position a bit. Oh, that's game over. Okay, good game, Mandelbrot. I made you do it, and you did. And man, am I tanking on chess.com? Really should have played c3 there. Wanted to keep that pawn mobile though. Yeah, queen on an open board, man. Maybe king a3. King a3 looks good. It's gone by that point. I mean, black has a technical win either way. Okay. That was a long one, folks. Let's look at it quickly. I definitely had a crushing position. This is a theme from my games. I get these beastly positions out of the opening because I know how to play the openings pretty well. This Vienna. So the computer's coming in here, and watch. I bet that this just continually ramps up for white's advantage. Wants me to keep the bishop pair with a3. Okay, f5 is best there. King h1 is best. Wow. Don't trust the computer too much in these openings, but it likes g4 here. h6 is inaccurate. Now queen g1, queen e1. Yeah, queen e1 is a useful theme in these kind of positions when you've played f4. Whether it's the Vienna or the Grand Prix attack or the King's Gambit, queen e1 is often an idea. I've mentioned that at a few points, but I never ended up playing it. Queen e1 was better here. The idea of queen to g3. But still, the moves I played were good, and I've got nearly a pawn. I got a half pawn advantage. Oof, it really likes g5. Okay, bishop was the right capture. Bishop h6 is best. Knight e8 is best. Knight a4 is best. Queen d6 is a blunder. What am I missing? I'm not looking at the screen here to see what was wrong with this. Oh. Is it queen takes queen, bishop takes queen, bishop takes g7, and then f6, right? Because the bishop and the knight, neither of them is watching over f6 anymore. Okay, yeah, that's the computer line. Bishop d2 is a blunder. I had that line, and let's look at that. He can't take with the knight because g2 hangs. But now g2 hangs anyway because, yeah, f6, and what wins the knight back, and I've just won a pawn. King h7, huh? Oh, he can't go king h8 because I'll take with the pawn and I win a rook. King h7? Or maybe just rook here? Wait, black can win this pawn back like this, right? Rook takes g7. Now we're winning a pawn back. Oh, we're mating or winning the bishop. So that that pawn on h3 is off limits. Okay. Man, every chess game I play is like a problem, a chess problem that I don't have enough time for. I get this, it's white to play and win, and I don't have time to find the move. I did have time here. That's an excuse. I didn't consider trading queens. This is the opposite of the mistake I made in an earlier game where I traded queens and lost my advantage and ended with a draw. I lost my attack. Here I thought I had this great attack, and I better keep my advantage by keeping the queens on the board. The only way to do that here is to play bishop back to d2. However, I had a better line by trading queens, a forcing line. I'm still with an advantage after bishop d2, but this line just wins a pawn and keeps an attack going with extra benefits. King h7, rook takes here, king h6. Rook d1 hitting that bishop. Knight to g5, guarding that pawn. Interesting. And also hitting f7. Okay. Bishop e6, and then knight takes e6. Oh. That hangs the bishop. So earlier, what's wrong with bishop b8? In which case this line would not be so bad. Oh, this is wrong with bishop b8. Knight takes c8. Rook d to g1, and there's no stopping this mate. There's just no stopping it. Black's pieces are completely useless and passive. I mean, there is stopping it if he takes on f7. Or sacks a rook here on g8. What good does that do? It's just a mate in so many moves. Okay. Okay, this time I had to keep my eyes open for the queen trade that would benefit me. Sometimes the best way to cash out your attack is to trade off those queens. Best move for black here was c5 instead. c5. Yeah. Queen takes. All right, but after bishop d2, I'm still good. I've still got a pawn advantage. It's not the worst kind of blunder. Actually, I don't like using the word blunder for moves like that. I mean, I've still got a good advantage here, even if I'm not strictly winning. So yeah, maybe it's a blunder. Knight f6 is a mistake. I'm again a piece up. Queen e1 is the idea. Queen e2 is inaccurate. e1. Why is e1 so much better than e2? Still, I have a 2.5 pawn advantage. Bishop e7 is inaccurate. Maybe now I take my chance to go knight b6, and once the rook moves, I land my knight on c4. I'm guarding a bishop twice, 3 times, and I'm hitting the queen. And that knight is actually a great piece on c4, as opposed to on a4. Rook a to d1 is excellent. Let's look at knight b6. Inaccuracy. Okay. All right. I'll take the computer's word for that one. Rook d1 still made a lot of sense. And now I can't play knight b6, however. If I go bishop to e3, I still may. And bishop h6 is best. I've got a 9-point advantage here. How does the computer swing that wildly from point 3, and then I make the obvious next move, and it's 9. From 3 points to 9 points. These things baffle me. Queen g2. Okay. Bishop f6, which is an inaccuracy. Knight to c5. Wait, king h7 is best. Just giving up on the... I see how king h7 works, I guess. Knight c5. I didn't see that allowed knight c5. That really gums up black's queenside. And that knight is going someplace better, say d7. Oof. Or grabbing the bishop. Bishop g5 is a mistake, but still, it's the kind of mistake that still leaves me with a 2-pawn advantage. f6 is inaccurate. Queen g4. c5. Knight h4. Just plant that knight on g6. Oh, and then we can threaten mates easily on h8. Okay. It says c4 is the best, and then we go knight g6, I'm guessing. Rook g2. Let's just jump in with our plan. Knight g6. Knight d6. It's just giving up the exchange. If black tries to keep it, queen h5. Just leads to mate. Just a mate. So knight to h4 actually threatens to win the exchange immediately. And apparently black could do nothing about it. If we go knight d6, a blunder. Rook takes d6. Queen takes d6. Queen g7, mate. Right. Okay, I'm going to memorize this game. There's just lots of useful attacking themes and ideas. I had so many wins. I need to not make these mistakes again. And that's how you do that. You commit these games to long-term memory. Knight d2 is a blunder, and now it's back to even. Knight h4 is best. Yeah, what was my idea? I was going to get the knight to c4. I was trying to extra protection on e4. Really passive stuff. Keep the attack going. Let's look at the best line with knight h4, the computer line. Knight h4, g5. Okay, stopping up the g file at least, at the cost of a pawn, but then giving knight this awesome square at f5. It wants to go f5 here. And queen g5, what if just knight takes f5? Which is best. Knight f6. Queen g5. I mean, we just won 2 pawns. But okay. And if this, or man, this, king h2, this is wild, and we still don't have a clear advantage. I mean, there might be a computer advantage of about a point, but it's not clear to me. Now if we go knight g6, there's no queen h4 anymore. There's a queen h5 possibly, but rook f7 should handle anything with the possibility of rook h7. So, Okay, black has some defensive resources still, but things look good for white in that line. So yeah, I didn't want him to play c4, and I wanted to defend e4. Knight d2 seemed to do both of those things, but it deserves to be an attacking piece here, not this meek defender. White's play is obviously on the king side. King h2 is a blunder. Looks like puts me at a disadvantage. Instead of king h2, just go follow up with knight c4. Knight c4. Suppose I was concerned with things like this. Rook g to e1. And there's no problem on e4. If the knight comes in, we can just grab it. It's not going to happen. And we've got a big advantage here. Just solidify with that advantage. I mean, I was still on the road to doing this. So knight d2 being a blunder itself. I mean, if I would have followed through with that idea consistently, but king h2, putting the queen on the same diagonal as my king. Yeah, putting my king on that diagonal. Because I was worried about e4 in that diagonal. Okay. Knight c4. Yeah, rook d4 is good. That's the best move anyway. Queen g3, just giving up on e4. I looked at this, and I thought maybe now's the time to just bail out. And apparently it doesn't want to trade queens, but if it chooses that, I can at least get my king a little closer to the center. And guard. That's a skewer. It's not a good skewer. Doesn't allow him to take f5 at least. Now my knights can start to chow down here. Knight d3 is looking good. I'm actually at an advantage here too. I mean, the material's even, despite me losing e4. My pieces are better, a lot better. My king's more central. And he's got these persistent pawn weaknesses. I had those thoughts, but it didn't look good enough, and I was a little too ambitious. A little too feisty, maybe. Queen c6 is a blunder. Knight a5, obviously. Wow, I missed that. That takes the sting out of everything on e4 once that piece is traded. Knight a5. Queen d6. Just take on b7. And this is an even-ish position. Material's even. I still like white a little better. Instead, I went for king f3, which just loses apparently. Knight d6. Yeah, now I have to trade. Rook e5. That's a great move. What does white have here? King f2. King f2 the move. Huh. The knight has 0 moves. And once I play my rook to d1. Maybe I need to go knight takes c5 here. A blunder apparently. But I'm just looking at this as a way to shore up that center, even if I'm down a piece. Minus 13. Rook takes f5. Oh, sure. That just wins material. Okay. Yeah, that diagonal did end up being a real problem, but only because I got defensive about it and stopped making my own threats. Oh, chess is a hard game, people. Hard game. This guy's rated 17, mid-1700s. Mandelbrot, good on you. You played a very good game. Let's look at the report. Yeah, he outplayed me. 93.6 accuracy. I had plenty of missed wins. I don't know how that doesn't come up. I made more blunders than him. More mistakes. Even one more inaccuracy. So, well played, Mandelbrot. You punched above your rating weight, it seems. All right. Useful game. I'm going to memorize this like I have been doing many of my games. And let's hope for better next time. Okay, we're constantly getting better, and that's the idea. Still an enjoyable game. Thank you, Mandelbrot 987. Talk to you all later.